Hello, Holy Ones. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So grateful to be here with you. Thank you for being in this space with me. We are recording. You beautiful new human you. Isn't it glorious to be a new human? Beautiful new humans experiencing new spaces of ourselves and of our glorious collective and earth. And it's so fascinating. I'll just talk a little bit as we're letting people in here before we hit all of the deep materials. But it's so fascinating. You know, if you've ever watched a movie or maybe experienced it yourself with a loved one or your own being, where you see a child go to a space they've never been before, you know, like, you know, some park or amusement park or something they've never seen before, right? That's really beautiful and interesting. And the awe and the wonder in their eyes, you know what I mean? And they have that moment where they're just taking it all in, you know, and their whole being is processing it and feeling it and sensing it. And I feel like we're so blessed, really. Those of us who seek to be born again every day, you know, those of us who seek to allow our continued expansion, because we are like the child, seeing all of the spaces of ourselves and our planet, our collective, all of this. We're seeing all of these spaces as if for the first time, because we are seeing them for the first time in that connection of our understanding, right? Our vantage point is changing. So our perceptions are changing, our interpretations, the sensations, the flow rate, everything is different in every space. I still have people reaching out now and then, and they'll say, "What happened to your voice?" And they want to know why I speak the way I speak. Because I trust myself, because I don't judge, because I allow. And this is how I flow in this space of me. And I may flow differently tomorrow, and I'll be all right with that too, because I'm like that child going, wow, isn't this cool? So allow that with yourselves as you're navigating being a new human. You remember the word new, right? I mean, hello, it's right there in our title, you know, and remember, titles are only a way of we can describe a space of us, but we're beyond that. You're a new human. At the same time, you're an ancient, wise one. You're a futuristic star one, whatever words you want to say. You're so much, you know, we could spend an entire hour just speaking titles and roles, and you'd be every single one of them. And that's awesome. And you'll be more than that and are more than that as well. But allow that focus on the word new right now, because right now in this particular version of us, we're human. We're still all the other spaces as well, but we're looking through the eyes of the vessel we're inhabiting as the human. Yes? So allowing yourself to remember that you are a new human, and what does that new human mean to you? And maybe even picturing a child, maybe you as a child, I don't know, maybe you have a child or a loved one has a child, you know, a friend. Picture the child walking into the day with awe and wonder for what it holds, will hold, may hold, and then allowing. Yes? So that's a really good lead in to us for today, because we're going to talk about and go over some hands-on tools for processing the new you. Because as I say all along, everything is energy. Everything is energy. So all the new spaces are energy spaces, and they're all flowing as you're flowing, vibrating, being you. And so you'll have new words you're using, and you'll say, I haven't used that word before, or not very much. Or you'll have new ways in which you kind of find yourself observing a little bit more, maybe. Or I found it really fascinating when I started being able to observe others in the space that I was already understanding myself in a pretty good rate. So then I started picking up on, what are they thinking? Like, what are they processing in this moment? I know, maybe I overthink things, but I find it fascinating, and I find that it helps me continue to learn how to then convey things, right? Because I'm constantly analyzing and studying, but I love it. So for me, it feeds my soul. It's not from a space of I have to figure it all out, you know? It's that I love it. I eat it. It's my food. It feeds my soul to look into all these spaces and allow myself to find new nuggets of understanding of what humans do and how we do it, and what the earth does. That's beautiful right now as well. I saw the earth recently in my understanding, and that means I just think about things and then I go deeper into them through my thought process and my inner knowing. That's what that means when I say I saw the earth recently. It wasn't like I had a deep dream or a vision set in. Do you ever see that show, That's So Raven? It's old, it's not on anymore, but boy, did I love that show. My kids loved it. And the main character was named Raven, and she had abilities, psychic abilities, but they'd come out of nowhere sometimes. And she'd always make this really kind of funny face, you know, and they'd play this funny music when she'd have that moment, you know, and then she'd be like, you know, trying to process what she was going to do with what she just saw. So it wasn't like that. I didn't like have a massive moment with music and, you know, saw the earth. And anyone who's seen the show will get a giggle out of it. But it was more like I was just thinking about the earth, and you can do this. This is part of our class today. Anything you want to know more about, think about it. Anything you want to know more about, just think about it. Just give yourself some space with it. And don't think that the moment you think about it and you ask the question, you have to know everything and you have to hear the answer fully. Know that you've put in motion the alignment of that answer to come in all the various ways that it's coming to you, because it's going to come in a lot of ways. Why? Because that's how vast you are. So even our answers to our questions, they are coming in from all the spaces of ourselves, right? So then you're also opening yourself up to allowing your gifts in all the spaces of you to flow in freely and answer you to where you have such a depth of knowing that ends up showing up. So think about whatever it is you want to know more about. You want to know more about your higher self? Think about your higher self. Envision your higher self. Imagine your higher self. Ask you what you think. Isn't that something? Wow, who's ever done that before? Is that crazy talk or what? Ask you what you think. It's so powerful. I do it all the time. I love spending time with myself. So ask you what you think. That's another tool today, please. These may seem simplistic, but that's how it is when you are functioning in these higher vibrational states of yourself. You're going to flow so much easier. And any spaces for anyone that may not feel new, okay? Because I get that. We have people from all over the world connect with this material, and everyone's in a different increment. And some of you might make note of this for someone you love, someone you know. But anyone who's seen a lot of old, that's okay. That's them or you giving yourself the opportunity to move into the new, because you don't leave where you've been until you understand you're there. And then you can decide if that's where you want to stay or if you want to go. So if you're seeing a lot of something, it's because you're trying to understand it. And then you can be aware and make your choices accordingly. So it's okay. Just you got to keep allowing self-mastery. That's another really big thing about being a new human. You are, if you're a new human, you're understanding you are the one designing and aligning. You are the one holding the reins. You are the one conducting the symphony. You are the one who wrote the notes of the orchestra that the orchestra is playing. It's not happening outside of you to you. You are the one in implementation mode. So you have to own it, and you have to say, that is not my energy, or that is not a timeline I align with any longer. Whatever your go-to is, and you can have a few in your pocket, right? I used the timeline one forever. That was like years of my life. I said, that is not a timeline I align with any longer, you know? And anytime a space came up or an experience with others came up in which I would have reacted the same old way, I said that in my head, that's not a timeline I align with any longer. And then I thought to myself, see, there you go again. You got to think, you got to use your brain, right? It's there for a purpose. You're a massive processing unit going on in here, and you can process anything. You're the supercomputer. You're the quantum computer right here. So in the moment that you make the claim, this is not a timeline I align with any longer. Or if you're feeling a bunch of sensations in your body and you lean in and you listen and you talk to yourself for a moment, is this mine? What is going on here? I don't even have to ask myself anymore. I can register it because I've learned to read it. That's how you do it, though. You have to learn to do it, right? By doing it. But if you're having an energy go through your body, like you're empathic, you pick up on everything, whatever your thing is, you can say, this is not my energy. It seems so simplistic, but it's powerful, because guess what? You're sovereign. So saying this is not my energy is like saying, let there be light. What happened when Source said, let there be light? And there was light, and it was good. So this is not my energy. Leaves your field of feeling as if it is, and gives you the opportunity to have the space from it, because you claimed the space. You said, this is not my energy. So what happened was you then removed yourself from being wrapped up in the space you were feeling. This is not my energy. Then you can read it. If you want, you don't have to, but you can read it and you can say, well, then why did I feel it? Some people like to know the why. That's all right if you want to know the why. And then you can move forward accordingly. Most of the time, you're just feeling it. I'm going to be honest with you. Most of the time, we are all just feeling the energies we're feeling because we're able to. Not because we have to do anything with them, not because we have to shift them or fix them or move them or transmute them or understand them, but we just can. We can do all of that and we can feel them. So you follow your inner knowing if you feel you have to lean in and do something about what you're feeling. Now, when would that happen? Because that's an important one. I'm trying to give as many applicable things here today as possible. A lot of you are coming into your gifts as mediums. So you're like that So Raven girl. And you're having these moments more and more where you're like, ooh, I had this dream, or ooh, I saw a loved one and then they called me, or, and some of you are even going a little bit further and like experiencing energy running in your body that doesn't necessarily feel great, like it may feel heavy or dense or suppressive or something like that. And you're like, what is this energy? And then a lot will think immediately, what did I do wrong? Because you've been trained. That's all right. That's a trained thought. But you didn't do anything wrong. You're all right. You're safe. You're loved. Everything is flowing correctly. Trust yourselves. And remember, that's just a thought that you get to heal. You get to love that thought into calming itself down and understanding that you didn't do anything wrong, right? Because immediately we think, I ate something bad. I was around someone with bad energy. Someone's sending me bad energy. We go through all these negative possibilities of why we're feeling what we're feeling, when maybe nothing wrong is happening at all. 99.9% of the time, I'd say 100, because even if it is something in those categories, it's you flagging you to learn something about yourself and move into the next space of you. So it's never a detriment. It's never a bad thing happening to you. It's just you allowing you to register what's going on. And you can't unless you lean in and feel it, right? It's like opening the book to read. then you know what's in the book. So you see you feel the energy and you look inside, and then you can do what you want to do with it. And many times it's as easy as, this is not my energy. Because you live on a planet that's energetic, and you live on a planet that is filled with beings that are like you, that have energy vibration. They're a wave walking around, talking, doing their thing. And so that energy is all over the place. And then you've got collectives. You've got groups of people who get together like we do. And not all of them get together for reasons like we do. So that energy is vibrating. So yeah, there's a lot of things we can feel and pick up on, but we can also say, that is not my energy. This is not my energy. And when you are leaning into the space, if you are reading it, this is one thing I wanted to share. Some of you are picking up on denser spaces. We would label them that way, but again, that's not accurate. Because you're getting understandings about big life shifts happening in your families and friends. So like people dying, it's inevitable. You're going to pick up on it. You're in a space of yourself now where you can register this. I've been doing this for years. I have loved ones in my family come to me in dream space on their way out. And they tell me goodbye. And then I get a call the next day from my sister or whoever's related to them closely, telling me they passed away. And in the beginning, it was like, whoa, what's going on? How am I doing this? This is who we are. This is who we are. So my sister, when my father passed away, I was 23. She's 20 years older than me, so she was 43. Now she's 70 something. We're all getting older in age chronologically on Earth, but it boggles my mind sometimes to think of her in that manner. I never see her, so that always shocks you when you start adding it up, because you put the person where you last saw them and you don't think of where they may be in the now line. Anyway, she was 43, and when my father died, he died in his sleep. He was sitting in his recliner because he had had congestive heart failure, congestive lungs for quite some time. And so interestingly enough, she had been embracing her new humanness way before I was. And she was the only one in my family that was embracing this space of herself. And when my father passed away, she didn't know yet. She was 4 hours away in her own city. And in the very middle of the night, I'm pretty sure that was when he transitioned, she said it felt like an elephant was standing on her chest. She was sound asleep, and all of a sudden she was like, and she felt like there was an elephant on her chest. And she just leaned, this is her understanding at that time as well. She just leaned into understanding she was feeling energy. She said her mind immediately wanted to tell her she was having a heart attack. And then she just allowed herself to send energy to her own being. So tapped into her higher self, Source-Space, sending healing to her. And then, I think she said it happened at like 5 o'clock in the morning or something. And my mom found him in the chair at 7 a.m. So most likely, I'm thinking that was when she felt it. He had a heart attack or whatever. And then, she was picking up on it. Why do I want you to know this? Because I want to prepare you. It's part of who we are. We're very interconnected. There's no big walls or veils even anymore. And we don't need them. That's part of that programming that wants to separate ourselves out and be afraid of other spaces. If my sister knew what she knew now, then she probably could have even spoken to my dad. She probably could have connected with him and said, it's all right. You're going to be okay. But I will say this. My father also told me several weeks before he did transition, he told me that he knew he was going to do so soon because, and he was working every day, like, he was sick most of my life, but he was always getting a miracle to get him another 10 years, always. So he had told me several weeks before he passed away that when he would be sleeping, his mother and my mother's grandmother, his son, many people who had already passed in our family were coming to him as a group. And they would stand at the end of his bed, and he would wake up and he would see them. And he would say, I don't want to go yet. And then they would leave. And why do I share that with you? Because it's another space of us. And I want you to be able to lean into that. I want to teach a course on this once or something about, because people fear death and people fear transition, and people, it's huge to think of loving someone your whole life. And then to think, you're not really sure, how does this work? Do I ever see them again? You know, where do they go? What do we feel? But, you know, everyone I've ever met and studied that has had a transition experience, they always comment on the amount of love, the the top amount of love. Like, you can't explain it. That's not even the right wording. Most of them don't want to come back once they get into that space of alignment. But some do, and they share their stories with us. But as you expand into this new human place, that's one of the ahs and wonders the child will see. You will have experiences with those you love, and some of you are already doing it. Some of you are already communicating and have been communicating with your loved ones who have already transitioned. And, you know, we use that word because it's better than death for me. Because I really don't, I know we never die. I get it, the physical body does. I get it. And you get a different packaging. I get it. But I guess I really want everyone to highlight and amplify the understanding of their eternalness, because I believe there's more power in that than talking about the space of you that dies. So the new, you're processing a lot more energy. You're seeing spaces and understanding spaces you've never understood before. Your dream space is changing. Your waking hours are changing. You're communicating with yourself more and more. Some of you are experiencing a lot of really big energy in your bodies, and it can come in and come out of nowhere. It can pass. It can seem as if it's, you know, daunting at first because you've not felt it before. There's a lot of different things you can do. I work with crystals a lot. I love crystals, wearing them, having them around me in my home. I believe that they're here for that. I know for a fact ACASMA is. So if you're already doing AQE, ACASMA Quantum Energy, remember that when you're having big moments. And if you're not already doing that, you haven't taken one of our courses and you aren't attuned to run ACASMA yourself, my YouTube channel and my sacred alignments on my Patreon, that's ACASMA. My YouTube channel has many sessions over there as well. Many of you know this because you do, some of you even do my C2C at the end of the month. So you understand the energy I'm talking about. But ACASMA is grounding energy for the human as they ascend. It's an ascension modality. There's many things we can do. Why we're doing this space, because there's a purpose and a meaning for everything. Why are we learning to understand our energy as it is connected with all these other realms, spaces, dimensions, earth, our own earth line, collectives, all this? Why? Because you're on the steps or the bridge of the path that is moving you from living as a form-based being to a light-based being. You're on the steps. And the only way you go from living as a form-based being, a human body, who maybe at one point in your life didn't even know you were energetic. There was a point in my life my entry of mind didn't know I was energetic. I learned I was taught to be religious, but I wasn't taught to understand myself as energy, which is so fascinating because they're so entwined. But we separate science and spirit from one another when they are one. So anyways, you're stepping on these steps, you're walking on this path, you're crossing the bridge of you to the next space of you. And in order to be that next space of you, you've got to take these steps. You've got to lean in and learn your energy. And remember, in the beginning, it was just your energy you were being asked to understand. Do you remember that? Some of you have been here a long time. And when we used to do the GETs, we called them. Do you remember them? Group energy transmissions. All right, so 2020, I think, when we would do those, and still today, when I do a sacred alignment or anything, I love to remind everyone that in a group session with Acasma, you have your sacred own space. In this class right now, you see who's here, right? Live. You have your sacred space. So glorious Lucretia looking at me right now, she has her sacred space. Meredith has her sacred space. Tanya, Holly, Kate, beautiful, divine. I got to catch Carrie. Carrie's here. Yes. Maya, Amy, Chantil, everyone. Sacred spaces. Why? Why am I telling you this? Because that's very important for walking across these steps, this bridge. You are learning your energy. Why? Because when you walk across those steps on that bridge, there's a whole lot of other energy you can feel. And that's how you learn you understand you. When I do my work, when I do sacred alignments, when you work with Meredith, she does these as well. Kate holds sessions, Holly holds sessions now, Amy holds sessions now, and Maya's holding sessions now. Working with groups, that's how incredible this higher dimensional ascension modality is with Acasma. It separates you out. Now, there are many other spaces. I've mentioned myself, and they'll say, oh, I went to this meditation and I felt like everybody's everything was there. I didn't like the energy. Or somebody, I went for this because I trusted the person that was holding the event, and then this other person at the end of the event said they decided to give everybody energy during the event, and I didn't want their energy. I don't know them. You know what I'm talking about? Why do I tell you this? Because I need you to anchor this understanding with me. When you hear me, you anchor it. When you hear me, it's a reality line that's stronger. And we're part of how this gets to be brought to humanity, and it's important. So when we do Acasma, it is such an incredible space of alignment. And this is Acasma. Everything I do is Acasma. I can't take it away and box it, because that would be like taking off part of my body and putting it in a box. It wouldn't work. It's me. It's who I am. So, but the sacredness is key, because this is how you learn you. And if you want to walk across the bridge of going from form to wave, of ascending vibrationally, you have to register your own energy first, so that as you cross the bridge and all your senses start coming on and all of your gifts start opening and unlocking and all of the energy is bigger because you're moving into a new vibrational space of existence, you are able to register and process and calibrate and assimilate you. And you're not, in a corner which we all could have a day like that. That's fine. That's how you can learn. But you don't have to live there. You don't have to live there. All right. So I want you to understand this, because these are big spaces. And if nobody talks about them, then everybody's going to navigate very differently. Knowledge is power. Now, we learned a couple things before. I know I taught you some things you could do, I think last month. So there's a hand position you can do where you put your hands together. If energy is high and you're wanting to register your own energy and you're wanting to cross those steps of that bridge and you're feeling a lot of stuff coming on, if we saw with our physical eyesight all of the energy waves that are currently moving around us, that belong to the earth, ourselves, our past loved ones, our ancestors, the animals, the insects, the star ones, the guardians, the angel. If you could see all of those waves floating around you, you would realize you're in a soup. Have you ever made soup with lots of vegetables and broths, and you got all this stuff in there, right? So you're like the carrot, but there's a whole lot of other things going on around you. So know your carrot, know what you are, know how to do you, so that as you go through the spaces of all these energies and all these waves, you're in a space of peace, you're in a space of calm, because you're good. You know who you are. You're unwavering. You pick up on a potato vibe and you're like, yeah, it's a potato vibe. I got this. I'm not a potato, I'm a carrot. Let the potato be the potato, right? So I give you these visuals because they'll help. I swear to God, they'll give you a giggle now, but then later on down the road, you'll be walking and you'll say, oh, I feel that energy. This is not my energy. Oh, that's a potato, or whatever you say. And you'll walk through that space with a lot more grace for yourself and others. But as we're navigating the new human that we are, and not becoming, did you notice I've been changing the title to new human? We used to be being the new human, right? We were becoming and being, and now I just put new human. But as you're navigating your life, if you feel the energy getting big, all right, or you just feel like you want to check in with yourself, you just want to check in, you just want to be more coherent of your own vibration, put your hands together like a prayer position, and then just allow your palms to separate so that your fingers are all still touching and my thumbs are touching, but you just allow your palms to separate. Now, the minute I do this, my breath starts changing and I start anchoring, and it's just crazy what will happen with your body. It's really beautiful. There's a conduit of energy running. That's what you're doing. And there's nothing wrong with this, but this is the next space of us. All right? And you can just hold it there in front of your heart if you want to put your hands down on your lap or whatever. But the main thing is your fingers and your thumbs touch and your palms are separate. And you just breathe. So just try that right now. Just allow yourself to breathe. And when I say that, I know you're already breathing, but you're intentionally breathing. Why? What's the difference? You're making note of it. You're making note of it. You're listening to your breath. What does it sound like? You're feeling your breath. What does it feel like? Does your body rise a bit? Does your body drop a bit as your breath moves through you? All of these are spaces of you, allowing your direction of your focus. And through your hand position, you are allowing your direction of your energy. That's what this is connected into, all right? So when you put your hands like this, and some of you are having your hearts and your throats are opening right now as well. When you put your hands like this, you can also know, you can also know that you are running an optimal alignment of energy through your form. So this is like, have you ever seen when people are going to do a little electricity work in the house, and my husband will like put a fan in or a light, and he'll have a tool that he puts up against the socket to make sure if he's turned the breaker off or not, and the tool will read the energy if it's live. And if he's shut the breaker off correctly, the tool will register that the energy is not flowing through the socket, right? When you do this, it is like taking a tool to your system that allows the energy of you to go into coherent, aligned flow. And when it goes into coherent, aligned flow, that means if you have any type of fear or incoherent thoughts going on, or somebody else's energy, the potato got on top of your carrot, or however, I mean, this could get a little weird in our visuals, but you know what I mean. And so you have this moment, right? So you just decide that you put your hands together. You can do this in your car, you can do this at your desk, you can do this in anywhere, right? You don't even make any noises. All you have to do is put your hands together and breathe. You're setting an intention, you're aligning your energy, you're anchoring your wholeness, and you're allowing. All right, so remember that, and please hold that. And now when you're moving through the bridge, over the bridge, and really you are the bridge at the same time, I hope you get that. So not only are you crossing the bridge to the next spaces of your consciousness's journey, but you are also the bridge, getting yourself to yourself. And as you're picking up on things, this is not my energy. As you're picking up on things, that's the timeline I no longer align with. As you're picking up on things, breath, and you can allow yourself to trust yourself more. You've done phenomenal already, yes. Most all of you, or if not all of you, are living lives in alignment of trust that you may have never had in this lifetime. Allowing yourself, allowing your authenticity, allowing the desires of your heart without judgment and leaning in. You're trusting yourselves. Keep doing that. Let that expand inside of you, and remember the awe and wonder. Look for it, anticipate it, get excited about it. Why? Because what happens when you look for it? Seek and ye shall find. What happens when you focus on it? What you focus on expands. You've learned these understandings of yourself, and now you're putting them into practice, you're putting them into motion, which is then you implementing from a higher vibrational place of you. What happens when you implement from a higher vibrational place? You experience a life in a higher vibrational space. And anything that comes along that would have in the past been deemed as dense, dark, difficult, even evil for that matter, anything that comes along in those spaces of alignment that are uncomfortable, your vantage point is looking at them with those eyes of this consciousness of you now. So your interpretation of them is not what it was. The way you feel them, read them, interact with them is not what it was. And I had an interesting experience I'll share that goes with this understanding. Try to sum it up super fast, okay? Most of you already know, all of my childhood, I was massive fear, used to see really horrific things, like I'd see my dolls move and speak ugly, and I was raised with a lot of fear of the devil, Satan. We weren't allowed to say the names. It's like the Voldemort thing in Harry Potter or something, he who should not be named. I was raised like that, you know? So we really, and I'm not doing this as judgment on my family. They were my angels. My mother and father, they raised me in the way I chose the alignment for my life so that I could say what I say right now, right? How powerful was that, right? Own the gifts you gave yourself. I own them. So childhood like this, right? Lots of scare, but raised to believe that there was power in me, and that came through my connection with Jesus. That's how I was raised. And I, at 16, was teaching Bible studies in my home. I was constantly doing things, baptizing people. I had a church when I was 23. And I didn't understand. There were some spaces that I had gaps in for myself of why we weren't healing people, why we weren't living with miracles more, and why were we getting stuck on the sin part so much. Like I really had a thing with the condemnation, judgment, sin part being the focal point. And so I eventually kind of meandered into another alignment that continued to expand to where I am now. But that was still a root. That was still in a foundational space of my energetic being in this line. So for me personally, I had to confront that, and I had to look it right in the face, and literally, really, the energy itself. I had to look into its eyes, and I had to decide if I was going to continue to accept that as my foundation and be a person who had these fears, or if I was going to heal them. And this isn't dark night of the soul. This isn't shadow work. This isn't take me years and years and years. I wasn't going, into spaces and trying dredging. This was living my everyday life as it was unfolding, and constantly allowing it to unfold and the next space of me to show up. I wasn't going backwards to try to find spaces that I had to fix. I was allowing myself to see it in the now. How did it look now? How was the foundation of the past coming up in today? And then I looked at it in the today and I said, is that accurate for the now? And I did what I needed to do, here's what happened. So I had this really lots and lots of repetitive experiences in dream space, which is you bringing you exactly what you need. We think something's coming in and some evil's doing something to us, but we're setting it all up so that we can wake up. And so I did all this. It's already on Patreon here on a video on fear. If you go in the archives, being a new human, can you be fearless? I think. So, anyways, this is funny though. Here's the expansive spot. Okay, here's the going across the bridge into the even next space of me. 2 weeks ago or so, I have a facilitator reach out to me, a ACASMA Quantum facilitator, my student. She's a master. She reaches out to me and she says, I have a client and I don't know them. They, just found me online and purchased a session. And I did an ACASMA session for them. And then they wrote me that during the session, they had some thoughts that were thoughts they never wanted to have again. And they were really dense, bad thoughts. And they were really shook up by it. And they weren't happy about it. So bless the facilitator's heart, right? We all can understand. She was like, whoa, what do I do? What do I say? And I knew exactly what was happening because I had walked through the path myself. Do you see what happens? You learn and you gain wisdom, and then you don't experience it yourself anymore. And maybe you can assist someone else moving down the road. So I said to her, well, here's the thing. ACASMA meets everyone right where they're at, and this is where they're at. And the fact that they don't want to see those things or think those things is because they fear those things. And as long as they fear those things, they will continue to connect with those things until they heal that fear. So I helped her write a little thing to send to the client. We took care of everything. And the client was very grateful and they shifted their perspective and it was wonderful. But that night, here you go. Ready? That night, I went to sleep like every other night, not even thinking about this particular thing. I had a whole lot of other things going on. And I have the weirdest dream space. It was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, cover starts pushing down on my body, like back in the fearful days. Like some people call it sleep paralysis, but for me, it feels like the blanket's going to smother you. And I'm feeling this dense energy coming up at my feet. But do you know what? I felt no fear. It was the weirdest thing. I've never been there before. I felt no fear. I didn't have to work to make my mouth move because, it's like this out of body in between state where you try to speak. I was trying to say, yes, I still say the name of Jesus. It's part of my makeup. And I was going to say the name and my head was thinking, oh, you're not going to be able to move your tongue. And I thought, Jesus, I've moved my tongue. I can move my body. I can do anything I want. The fear was gone. It had been healed. I had healed it when I had forced myself to face it in another space that was similar to this. And so it was interesting though, because I was watching myself experience that it was healed. I don't know if that relates correctly to you, but it was like I was watching myself have the experience of being in the dream and being able to talk and being able to move. And I didn't even have to I don't know how to explain it, but to say to you that it felt incredible. And I just watched myself sit up in my bed and just be like, be gone. But it wasn't like, be gone, be gone. It was just like, be gone. So I hate to sound flippant, I think is the word you would use. I don't know, like careless, but it was like swatting a gnat that was annoying you. And if you have lived in the opposite space of view of that gnat, then you will know how enormous that sentence is. When that gnat used to run your life and that gnat used to force you to be physically sick, and now you'll be gone. But I thought to myself, why? Why did I have this dream? And, what did I tell you in the very beginning of this call? Ask yourself what you think, right? So I asked myself, why did I have this space? And then I immediately saw the facilitator and her space where we had to help the person who had the big fear, right? And I thought, oh, okay. So I had that experience. It's an energetic alignment. And then it was me. I brought myself the facilitator. I brought myself the client of the facilitator, having the space. Of course, they all have their own thing they were getting as well, right? But everybody's getting something if they want to from every space, right? So the facilitator learned, client got stuff. I got stuff because I set up an alignment that was a similar space that I had navigated with clients and myself. And so that energy was going boom, 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 boom in my being. And when I was sleeping, it was offering me the opportunity through the registering of it to see where I was at. Only to heal us, like we have to choose if we want to heal, right? We have to choose how we want to handle it. So when we have these spaces, and I'm going to close it here, when we have these spaces, we used to think it was all about us learning to navigate the space and like we have to heal it, and it's all about the work, right? And that's true, but here's something else I want us to see as we close. It's also about the gauge. It's a gauge. Every experience is a gauge showing us exactly where we're at. And how we read the gauge, how we then respond to the experience that we're gauging ourselves by. If we knee-jerk react, the gauge is over here in fear still. If we kind of contemplate for a minute and we're like a little iffy, but we do pretty good, better than last time, the gauge is in the middle. We're almost out of fear, but we're not fully into love all the time yet, you know? And then we gauge it and we have the space where, like that experience with the dream space with me, all right? Then I would be leaning in and going, wow, I'm reading the gauge and I was 100% aligned with love. I had healed the fear. I mean, it was really trippy to experience it the way I did, but it's important because it's part of the bridge you're walking across. So knowing your energy, utilize tools like this is not my energy, especially if you have a lot of really weird things happening. Like you know, you lose your keys, you have a flat tire, or you're late for something, but like everything starts adding up and you just have this week. Say it. This is not my energy. Coherence, clearing, alignment, breath, settle back in. We talked about that before, I think last week. Settle back in. And remember, it's all part of you journeying further on your path of ascension. You should be experiencing new spaces that you have to learn about. That's being somewhere new. All right, Holy Ones. Thank you unendingly for being here today and for navigating such a big topic and staying with me. I deeply, deeply appreciate you beyond words.
We love you.
I love you, I love you, I love you. Blessings, Holy Ones, blessings, blessings.